Hello everyone, nice to see you again on my channel. You know, most people would rather avoid this topic. It makes them uncomfortable. The idea that a married woman could be attracted to someone outside of her relationship, it's like walking on thin ice in society. But if we don't talk about it honestly, we miss a real opportunity to understand something deeper about human nature, about desire, and even about ourselves. Let's be clear from the start, this isn't about encouraging anyone to pursue something inappropriate or to cross any boundaries. This is about awareness. It's about understanding the subtle dynamics of attraction, the kind that operates below the surface of everyday interactions. And most importantly, it's about knowing how to carry yourself with integrity and composure when life throws complex situations your way. You see, the truth is, attraction doesn't always ask for permission. It doesn't always check in with our social contracts. It just happens. And sometimes it happens in places where it's least expected, like in the presence of someone who's already committed. Now, from a Stoic perspective, emotions and desires aren't something to be feared or suppressed blindly. They're signals, data, information. A Stoic doesn't run away from the truth even if it's uncomfortable. A Stoic observes, reflects, and then chooses a response grounded in reason and virtue. So, when we're talking about attraction from a woman who's married, we're not talking about acting on that attraction. We're talking about noticing it, understanding it, and responding in a way that aligns with strength, clarity, and principle. But here's the interesting thing. A woman, married or not, rarely expresses interest in an obvious or direct way, especially when there are social consequences at stake. The cues are subtle, quiet, almost hidden in plain sight, and it takes a man who's deeply present, who's learned to read the unspoken energy in the room, to even notice. That presence, by the way, is a kind of masculine calm. It's that grounded stillness that isn't easily shaken or distracted. It's a quality that makes women feel safe, seen, and strangely drawn in, even if they don't fully understand why. That's part of the psychology behind this. When a woman is around a man who's deeply anchored in himself, who doesn't seek validation, who carries himself with calm authority, he becomes magnetic, not because he's chasing anything, but because he's not chasing. He's centered. Now, when a married woman is attracted to a man like that, it often starts with her feeling emotionally stimulated. That's key. Attraction for many women begins in the emotional realm. It's not always about physicality. It's about how she feels in his presence. Does she feel more alive, more noticed, more understood? And let's not forget, in many marriages, especially those that have settled into routine or emotional distance, a woman might be quietly starving for emotional recognition, not necessarily for someone new, but for the feeling of being deeply seen. When that need goes unmet long enough, and she encounters someone who offers that experience without even trying, something starts to awaken inside her. Now again, this doesn't mean she's looking to act on those feelings. It just means something has been stirred. That spark she thought was gone suddenly flickers again. Here's where your awareness comes in. If you notice her lingering a bit longer during conversations, if she lights up when you speak, if she mirrors your energy in subtle ways, it's not always an accident. And it's not just about what's said. It's in the way she makes eye contact, in the little glances when she thinks you're not looking, in the way she finds reasons to be in your presence. These are soft signs. They're like whispers that most people miss. From a psychological standpoint, we often think of attraction as a response to novelty and contrast. If her current life is predictable, emotionally flat, or lacking in excitement, then your presence, if it offers contrast, can become irresistible, especially if you represent what she feels she's missing. That's where danger and desire meet. Not because of you, but because of what you symbolize. But this is where the Stoic mindset becomes crucial. Just because you recognize attraction doesn't mean you have to feed it. Your ability to stay grounded, to respect boundaries, to acknowledge what's happening without being controlled by it, that's what defines your strength. That's what keeps you from becoming a man who's easily swayed by validation. Because here's the reality. Attraction is flattering. It can be tempting, especially if it's coming from someone who seems out of reach, someone who's admired, desired, and yet spoken for. But if you're not careful, that temptation becomes a test. And many men fail, not because they're evil, but because they lack inner discipline. You have to ask yourself, what kind of man do you want to be when no one's watching? When the opportunity is right there and you could say or do something that crosses a line, would you? Or would you remain unmoved, not out of fear, but out of strength? Women are intuitive. They can sense when a man is tempted. They can feel when his energy shifts, when his attention starts to drift from presence into fantasy. And ironically, the more you resist that drift, the more powerful you become in her eyes. Because now you're not just attractive, you're principled, you're rare. And that rarity, that's what truly draws people in. It's not about being the most charming or the most smooth. It's about being deeply, unshakably yourself. A man who doesn't bend to every emotion. A man who can witness desire without being consumed by it. Now, let's talk about this from her side for a second. Attraction for a married woman can be confusing. It can stir guilt, curiosity, longing, and even shame. She might feel something toward you, and then immediately retreat into distance to protect her image, her relationship, or even her self-perception. That hot and cold behavior, it's not always manipulation. Sometimes it's a defense mechanism. But here's the thing. When you show that you're not judging her, that you're not trying to exploit her feelings or make her feel wrong, you give her the space to just be honest with herself. That's powerful, not because you're leading her anywhere, but because you're holding space for truth. And truth is rare. Attraction becomes less about seduction and more about resonance. She feels seen, she feels safe, and yet you're not doing anything inappropriate. That balance is difficult, but it's possible. And when you live in that space, where you're aware of your impact, but you choose your response with clarity, that's when you truly embody Stoic masculinity. The world tells men to chase, to conquer, to pursue. But real power comes from restraint, from being able to sit in the presence of desire and not be moved. That's what separates men who follow impulses from men who lead with wisdom. And let me tell you something. Whether she's married or not, the most magnetic thing you can do is carry yourself with quiet strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need to prove anything. The kind that speaks through your eyes, your stillness, your silence. That's what creates an atmosphere where women lean in. Not because you're pushing, but because you're present. So if you ever find yourself noticing the subtle signs, a lingering gaze, a touch that lasts a beat too long, a shift in her voice when she speaks to you, don't be naive. But also, don't be reactive. Observe, reflect, and choose the response that aligns with your highest self, not the one your ego wants in the moment. Because in the end, attraction isn't the issue. How you respond to it, that's where the real story is told. You don't need to act, you don't need to chase, you just need to be steady, honest, grounded. Let her feel what she feels. Let it pass through without grabbing it. Let your presence speak for you. And when you can do that, when you can witness temptation without letting it master you, you don't just become a man women are drawn to. Now here's something people rarely talk about. The emotional ripple effect that attraction causes, especially when it's unexpected, especially when it's forbidden. For her, this internal shift can feel like a betrayal to her vows, even if nothing has happened. Just the feeling itself can stir confusion and restlessness. That's why her behavior might seem inconsistent. One moment she's engaging, smiling, a little too close. Next, she's distant, guarded, like she's pulling back from something she doesn't want to admit to herself. But if you're paying attention, really paying attention, you'll see it. You'll feel it in the energy, not just in the things she says, but in the way she says them, in the pauses, in the hesitation, in the way her body almost leans forward when she's interested, but her words try to stay neutral. That push-pull, dynamic, it's not random. It's a result of internal conflict. And here's the key: if you're a man who knows himself, who has spent time studying not just women, but his own psychology, then you understand that her attraction isn't about you personally. It's about something you represent, a spark, a reminder, a mirror. You might reflect on a version of herself she hasn't seen in years, the woman who used to feel alive, desired, curious, and in your presence, that version wakes up again. That can be intoxicating for her and sometimes for you too. But the wise man doesn't confuse her feelings for destiny. He doesn't take her desire as a green light. He sees the bigger picture. He knows that real masculinity isn't about acting on every opportunity. It's about discerning which ones are worth his energy, his reputation, his peace. So what do you do when this happens? What do you do when a married woman shows signs? She's drawn to you. First, you stay still. You don't rush into fantasy. You don't feed the fire with flirtation. You stay calm. Stillness is your strength, not coldness. Stillness. You stay aware of the boundary even if she's testing it. And believe me, sometimes she will test it. Not maliciously, not even consciously, but emotionally. She may start opening up about her relationship more than she should. She may ask personal questions that tiptoe into intimacy. She may compliment you in ways that feel emotionally charged, even if subtle. That's where the Stoic mindset becomes your shield. A Stoic doesn't live in fear of emotion, but he doesn't get swept away by it either. He examines it, accepts it, and then chooses what aligns with his principles. That's where your peace comes from, knowing that your power is in your ability to choose, not to react. Let's not sugarcoat this. Attraction is a powerful force. When it's mutual, when it's electric, it can feel like gravity itself, like something bigger than logic. But the moment you lose yourself in it, you lose control. And the moment you lose control, you're no longer the man who drew her in to begin with. You become just another guy chasing a feeling. And that's not attractive. That's not respectable. That's not who you want to be. You want to be the man who can stand in the fire without flinching. The man who can feel the tension, the chemistry, the possibility, and still choose character over chaos. You want to be the man who honors the truth of what's happening without exploiting it. Because when you live from that place, when you're centered in who you are and not in what you want, you become a lighthouse in a storm, a calm presence in a chaotic world. And whether or not anything ever happens between you and that woman, she will never forget how you made her feel. She'll remember that you didn't pressure, didn't manipulate, didn't fold. She'll remember your steadiness, your discipline, your restraint. And here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes that's the most intimate experience of all. Not the physical, not the fantasy, but the shared recognition of something deep, something electric, something that wasn't acted on. That restraint becomes a memory more powerful than any act ever could be. It's not about denying desire. It's about understanding that desire doesn't always need to be fulfilled to be meaningful. Sometimes the highest expression of power is in walking away with your soul intact. So when you sense she's attracted, when the signs are all there, when the air between you feels charged with something unspoken, don't let it control you. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you of your strength. Let it show you how far you've come from the boy who chased validation to the man who lives by principle.